The world of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a vast pool of so many cards in different styles, vibes, eras, and if you've picked up a card recently, you might be thinking, why isn't this vibing the same way it did when I was a kid? Or for that matter, even before. Case in point, today we're going to be quickly looking at all the different series eras of Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards that have spanned the last 25 years. There's a lot more going on here than you might think, so let's start off with what you're definitely used to, and that's Series 3. And if you're in any TCG area, then this is probably what you're used to, because it's all we've had. A big giant block for big giant effects. But even Series 3 has changed a lot over the last 2 decades. Like, if you picked up the 25th anniversary and thought, whoa, this doesn't look like Metal Raiders, then you're not crazy, you're right. Everything from the text box being brightened to the stars and attributes being holographic, hell, even the card stock, it's just plain and simple not what we grew up with. And when you put them next to each other, you realize how staggeringly different they really are. The most jarring thing you'll notice is that the print coloring is completely different. Modern cards are much sharper and much brighter. Not to mention the art of the card actually being larger and the name text box being shrunk down considerably. It's funny too, because none of the things I just said are necessarily bad, but man, that nostalgia kicks in. Give me my dull, dark, OG Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. And though that might be where the TCG story ends, this is Series 3. There are 2 other ones we gotta talk about. The international market got Yu-Gi-Oh! Considerably after Japan, and by the time they themselves were printing Series 3 to make room for many potential card effects, that became our default. But the predecessor was Series 2, primarily identified by its little square attack and defense box. I would personally argue that this is peak Yu-Gi-Oh! Design. In fact, as a little kid, every time I saw them, I immediately thought of the anime of all things. And though the formatting is a bit different, that box around the attack and defense just made me think of it. There are a handful of Asian English prints in the Series 2 formatting, and every time I see them, it just makes me yearn for what could have been. Series 2 English cards would have went so hard. There are a few other marginal differences, but at the end of the day, the major formatting shift gives itself away. But this is only Series 2, and it's time to talk about the OG, Series 1. These are the first playable Konami Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, and at first glance, you might not notice any difference between 1 and 2. In reality, the attack and defense box is bigger than the effect box, because this was the era where vanillas reigned supreme. And when you actually compare 1 and 2 next to each other, you can really see the difference. It's crazy to look at how far Konami's come in their reliance of needing a wall of text to play a card game. And by the time Series 1 was ending, cards like Barrel Dragon, they were really making that format struggle. Series 1 does also have a couple of other crazy things going on, like no set codes, and more importantly, no Eye of Anubis. That's right, the little hologram in the corner that you trained yourself to look for as a kid, and if you didn't see it, it was fake. Well, not necessarily. The card game was still pretty young at this point, so there was just the copyright in the corner. These cards have that much swagger. Anyway, the story doesn't necessarily end at Series 1. There's prototype Konami cards, Bandai cards, and if you study everything, you can really see how it went from a one-off in a manga to the card game we know and love now. Looking at how these cards change over time is just something that I've always really loved. And hopefully you learned a little something about how to identify Series 1, 2, and of course the one we all grew up with, Series 3. Thanks for watching.